Hi. Hello. Mhm. Thank you, Jackie. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you and talk about all things wellness. I just find being in your presence is already lowers my nervous system and grounds me. So it's like I think as I once said, you're like a human form of Prozac. Mm. Yeah, it's a great story. And it kind of yoga and Ayurveda came to me almost in tandem. It was after the birth of my second child that I was really out of balance and getting chronically sick and going to Western medicine doctors, and they would just say like, "Oh, you're a new mommy, take an antidepressant. You're just, tired." And I was like, "No, this is not tired. Like my body's out of balance. Something's super off." So that started me on the quest of finding what was wrong and trying to get back my vitality. So really, in that search for finding my vitality, I stumbled upon an Ayurvedic doctor, and it was working with a nutritionist and an Ayurvedic doctor that got me to start doing yoga. So I would say Ayurveda was actually came before the yoga, but the yoga was a crucial piece to the puzzle of me kind of coming out of the fog. So once did come out of the fog through all the Ayurvedic practices of diet, herbs, time in nature, yoga, meditation. A year, 2 years after that, I was so completely transformed that I thought, okay, wait, I really need to dig deeper and find out what is this all about, because I was really sick and now I'm really healthy. I went from like being in the sort of lowest energetic space of my life to being the most vital. And then I just went down that rabbit hole studying with the leaders in the field like Dr. Lod and, doing first my Ayurvedic counselor course and then Ayurvedic practitioner course. Um, and deeper, deeper. And that work led me to meet incredible people like Kyra. It also led me to meet people in the psychedelic space. And what I found is that when I would start working with clients, Ayurvedically, and I would give them the sort of prescription or the recommendations of lifestyle changes, herbal remedies, um, movement, smells, all those meditations, pranayama. I would give them those recommendations. And I just found that it was really hard for people to shift their patterning. And that's what got me curious into microdosing mushrooms, and how that could help people make those shifts, those health shifts, to find the balance that I knew they could find if they implemented these Ayurvedic practices into their life. And so that's what dove me in. And what I'm seeing is everything I do now with my clients is a combination of everything I learned in yoga, Ayurveda, and my psychedelic work. And so now I just merge it all, and it's been a really beautiful. They work really well together. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I've always felt this like overwhelming sense that we were not brought onto this planet to be miserable, and that would not make sense to me. That idea of being born to be on the rat race, on a hamster wheel, and wake up, go to work, go back, pay the bills, yell at the kids, be annoyed at in-laws, da, da, da. That cycle just didn't resonate. And felt that I felt that I was able to find a lot of joy in my life, and I couldn't understand why other people couldn't live in that space. And so I just feel like it's my life's mission to help people find that joy in their life every day, from the smallest things to the big things, to finding the joy even in the difficult moments, but just living life from a place of joy. And the number one thing that prevents people from living in joy is physical imbalance, health imbalances. If you're not feeling well, if you have anxiety, if you have depression, if your shoulder hurts, if you can't exercise, you feel like shit. I mean, it's just hard to be joyful. And so all of this wellness work is really not to make people look amazing and have perfect skin and be the perfect size two or whatever. That is absolutely not why I do it. I just want them to be joyful in this life that we have. That's short. We don't know how long we have. We have this one experience. It's an incredible, magical experience that we're on this ride. So let's have fun. And with that doesn't mean you can't, not eat something healthy one day. No, be joyful in everything you do. Eat the healthy food, but also drink the Coke if you want to drink it one day, but do it with joy and gratitude, not with repression or fear or anxiety or, oh, I'm so bad. It's just a mindset shift, really. Yeah. Yeah. It's fun living with joy with you for sure, Jackie. That's easy.
Oh yeah, well that is a huge story. It came, to put it very bluntly, from an energetic story that I have with this land from a very long time ago, and have always had in this life as well. just a deep innate calling, a knowing and intuition and understanding, and it just kept pulling me here. I mean, I grew up here, so I've been here my whole life, but even that kind of feels related to the original story of this is where I need to be, even when I think I don't, even when I want to get away, run away, chuck it all in and leave, it pulls me back. In the most beautiful ways, not in dramatic or horrendous ways, but in beautiful ways, like the magic of this land, this island, the people of this island, and the land where we have and are growing the project. Just has a vibration that to me feels extremely healing, extremely connected. You know, a lot of people say magical. I think that magical can be misunderstood. I mean, I believe that everything is magical and therefore it's not magical. It's just the way life is when you are able to see it. It's a bit, you know, it's very much like what Christina was talking about. When you live in joy, when you live in connection, when you live in belief and in trust, then what people see as magical kind of happens every day, which doesn't diminish it. It just means it's more fun, more enjoyable, more um, you understand why in a way we're here, which is just to be alive, just to live it. And you know, I really resonate and agree with everything that Christina just said about lifestyle. And your lifestyle doesn't have to be in a place. It's a mindset. It's a way of thinking and of acting that creates your lifestyle. And with a great lifestyle, you can be anywhere and you can live in paradise and you can live a magical, beautiful, healthy, joyful existence. And it makes all the difference. So, you know, it's really interesting that I just, everything she's just said and everything that you're talking about, you know, is also in a way my mission in life, which is to share with other people the fact that anyone can be, almost anyone can be healthy physically, and anyone can be healthy or joyful in the way that they live. And it's a choice, you know, as much as anything, it's a choice. Yeah, it's big. It's 25 acres in front of the ocean, of which the bit that we do all our work in right now is, I would say, quarter of the full land. So it's still wild around us, which is really nice as well because we're kind of growing slowly. When we arrived there, the land was wild still, so it gave us an opportunity to really do our very best. I was going to say to not interfere, but that would be really unfair. We did interfere with nature, but the whole kind of ethos behind Kyra is to work in harmony with nature and to learn to live as humans in harmony with nature. Because when we do, we recognize that we are nature, and then we come back to healing in ourselves and the planet and all the things that we're talking about healing in today's world, at least from an Ayurvedic perspective, and certainly from my perspective, is that when we realize we are nature, then we're going to heal. And so is everything around us. So having that experience, living in a place and kind of speaking with, communicating with nature and saying, listen, we really want to do this together. Can you help us? Already opens up that multi-way communication with something that doesn't necessarily speak in human language, but does definitely communicate of how we can do it together and how when we do it wrong, it doesn't feel right. So it's very quick, or it quickly shows us how to kind of find the balance in whatever we're building or doing or creating. And you know, that's been an amazing human experience, which when we first set out, it was an idea. Okay, let's do this project where we do. Yeah. So yeah, pre-kids. It actually the download for Kyra came. We were on honeymoon and we were in the Dominican Republic, and we were on a beach in the north coast, far away from where Kyra is, and it just came like that. This is what we need to do, and then that developed into what Kyra is now. But the sort of knowing was very, very clear. And I feel like the whole thing has happened, again, magically in a way, because it's the miracles that have happened in order to help create the project to where it is right now have been consistent and nonstop. In many ways, against all the odds, against what so many people were saying, against, lots of things that even our families were saying, it's still kind of happening. Yes, and we raised the 5 kids on the raw land. Um, Although now the kids don't live on such raw land, and now the kids have a much more, in their mind, normal existence. Or, you know, I wouldn't say was that normal, but more normal at least than what they saw it as in the beginning. Yeah. Well, I was already studying. I was already a naturopathic doctor, and Ayurveda was always behind that. I just couldn't study it in Spain where I was at the time. And a bit like Christina, it was always in there. I actually started practicing yoga before I started practicing Ayurveda, but Ayurveda had been in my psyche, had been there, kind of going, "This is what I want to do." I just didn't know how to go about it. Um, and a bit like Christina, I also had an experience where what the experience of practicing yoga, I often say it saved my life, which sounds really dramatic and kind of out there, but in a way it did, because I was a really rebellious, I was looking for God in all the wrong places, let's put it like that. And when I first started practicing yoga, I was 17. Um, Someone took me to an ashram in London, like, "Come on, you're coming on a yoga retreat." And I'd been out partying the night before and all the things. And I went to the yoga retreat where everyone was in their Swami robes, the orange robes, very serious, very. And I showed up with glitter all over my face and kind of like, "Yeah, yeah, cool, let's have fun." And they put us into shoulder stand, and I was like, "Uh-oh," and literally had to run to the bathroom to vomit because I had been partying the night before, was detoxing, and felt super like ashamed and all the things, and left the retreat kind of going. I I felt really ashamed, but was also like, wow, that was really powerful, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. And so began my practice of yoga. And as I was practicing yoga, I realized that there's so much in yoga which is Ayurveda also. And that was when I went, okay, how am I going to study this? And I ended up going to India and studying it in India, but it took me a while to get there. I had to do my naturopathic degree first, and so I'm not actually an Ayurvedic doctor, but I took a what they call a sort of jump course, where if you're already a doctor, you can go and study with the doctors there and become. They don't even give you a name. You just kind of go, "Yeah, well, you're a naturopathic doctor, but you practice Ayurveda." Okay, fine, that's cool, that works. How I mean, that's a very short story because it was a very long story of how I got into it. But really, it was the same connection of yoga, Ayurveda, esoteric philosophy, nature, and how does that all come together? Well, it comes together with Ayurveda. Oh yeah, there was a lot of that on the way, and in all the senses, and like with the psychedelics, there's definitely there's a healing in all of that journey. It's just that I was 13, 14, 15, 16 and had no idea what I was doing. It opened my mind for sure to the bigger picture and to what I really wanted. It just wasn't very good for my body, and it wasn't a very healthy way to find God at that moment in my life. Um, Definitely think that all the psychedelic work that's happening these days, done in healing ways, is like massively helpful. And it has its place within the Ayurvedic philosophy as well. It's not huge, but it's definitely there. And like Christina says, I think if psychedelics in any way whether they're in microdoses or in macrodoses, are going to help you to open doors or to unlock blocks, which are then going to help you to continue your healing process. Anything goes. I mean, in today's world, anything and everything is possible. And all those paths are there because everyone's different. You know, people resonate with different things in different ways. You know, and a bit like what Christina says, Ayurveda does encompass it all. Like it's life. It's not just healing, it's the whole life, which is why I think it's so important in a way and so useful in today's world, which is so open and there's so much possibility for everything. You know, in essence, Ayurveda is even more helpful where people have access to all the different pathways because it does encompass all the different ways of life and all the different aspects of life and you know, relationships and colors and healing practices and activity and breathing and what you look at and what you don't look at and everything else is all covered and very deeply in the Ayurvedic philosophy and tradition. So it really has such a or can have such an important and helpful kind of connection to today's fast-paced and information-filled world. Bring balance and healing in all the different ways.
Well, I'll just start and then I'm going to pass it over to Kira. So the word Ayurveda in Sanskrit, those two words, what they actually mean, Ayur and Veda, is the science of life. So that really just kind of in a nutshell is what it is. It was a text, it was a information that was transmitted, you know, it is told that it was transmitted by consciousness source, God, you know, higher beings to the sages over 5,000 years ago and written in historical texts that give an entire manual of how to live in this body, be a conscious human in this body for optimal living. It's way more detailed than that. You know, these are thousands and thousands of pages and, you know, years of study. But I think the essence for somebody who really just kind of knows it from the buzzwords or, you know, from TikTok or from the labels, the the sort of nectar of what this is a consciousness based health system that uses connection with nature, uses lifestyle, but more importantly, uses the concept of presence, awareness in all of your choices and everything that you put into your senses, into your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your nose. All of these things have an impact on the molecular, cellular um, matter of our physical body. So that's just the sort of kind of high art overall theme of what this. And within that, there's a lot. I'm going to let Kira go into kind of the sort of next level of sort of other pieces, but that's just kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about Ayurveda. Okay. Mm.
For sure. I mean, I think Christina did a really good job of putting it into a nutshell, something that is such a massive old philosophy, but at the same time, it's simple in the sense of it all comes back to nature. And just even the word rhythm comes from the Sanskrit root of ruta, which means the rhythm of nature, the rhythm of the universe, the rhythm of life, to which we are all essentially connected. And so all of the rhythms of nature, whether it be day and night, whether it be weekly, monthly, yearly, whether it be monthly in the female body, especially, but in all bodies, are all connected to nature. And we are, being the human animals that we are, a part of that nature. So when we fall out of touch with those rhythms, whether it be, on a monthly level, on a weekly level, on a daily level, as in we don't go to bed, when it's dark and all those kinds of things. I mean, we will get deep into Ayurveda with this. But when we fall out of rhythm, we automatically are out of balance because every other species in nature, whether it's plants or animals, they live by those natural rhythms because it's in their structure, and because they don't have this thing that we have, which is the power of choice to choose when I do all the other things. They just follow their natural rhythms. And so, other than domesticated animals and plants live in these natural rhythms. It's really important that it seems like something really simple, but actually, as a species, and as a result, as a planet, we're out of sync with the natural rhythm, which is already creating an imbalance. And the Ayurveda is all about balance, just like nature is all about balance. Just like, consciousness in a way is all about balance, because it's the balance of the masculine and the feminine, or the active and the passive, or the yin and the yang, or you can call it what you want. But it's about this constant balance. And so why I came back to it's simple is that, sure, you have to understand it. But what's beautiful about it being a science is that for those more logically minded people and less, right brain people, it has a science. Every single question you could ever ask in Ayurveda has a logical, understandable, scientific reason as to why it works this way, on the one hand. And then on the other hand, like Christina said, because it's a consciousness-based everything, it also works at an ethereal, energetic, spiritual, um, you know, conceptual human level, which is the bit that we can't necessarily explain with science, but we also feel it. So what I love so much, and I would really just add to Christina's nutshell, in a very kind of blunt way, this works for everybody. When you understand it, if you do it, if you just go, oh, well, this is my dosha and therefore this, and you don't really understand it well, it may not work for you because it's more complete than that. I was going to say it's more complex, but I'd love to stick with it's actually not that complex once you understand it. It's pretty simple because it's all about coming back into rhythm with nature, with yourself, with your true essence, and with therefore what works for you. And it just requires, I would say, in its essence, an acceptance of, okay, well, this is my constitution and that I can't change. So I need to learn to work with it. It doesn't mean I can't be flexible with it. It just means I am the way I am, physically, mentally, emotionally. When I'm in balance, this is the way it is. And in order to keep myself in balance, these are the things that I need to do to help me stay balanced. But what I will say is when you do accept yourself fully and then completely and keep yourself in balance, that joy that Christina talked about at the beginning is innately there all the time. You wake up joyful, you go to bed joyful, you get, things happen. I'm not saying that life doesn't come at you. Of course it does. All kinds of challenges come. But the way you deal with them enables you to flow with them a little bit less. It's not to say that suffering isn't there, but it's the way you deal with it isn't so painful and isn't so dramatic and isn't so all the things, which makes you innately more joyful and more energetic and more, more all the things that I think people are looking for. I'd like to say happy, but happy is misunderstood. Content, at peace, satisfied, just full, whole in yourself. And that is amazing, really amazing.
I really loved what, sorry, Jackie, I loved what Kira said in terms of the simplicity, because one of the things that I think we realized, we called our retreat the Essential Nature Retreat, Realign Your Vibe, but the Essential Nature, which has like a little bit of a double tundra, like really what we found that the most healing part of the retreat was the time in nature. We started off 5 years ago and we would do boat trips or we would do excursions and we would do this and we did, and what we realized year after year is people were really wanting, needing, asking for was just quiet time connecting with nature. And I know Kira mentioned this, but it's one thing to hear it from the mama who made it than from somebody else. But there is something really special about this land, and something that very much has the ability to hold some of the toxicity and help filter it out of your system. And every person who has gone through comes out the other side, even if they've done nothing else. They have come out the other side with this renewed, refreshed sort of skip in your step. So I used to say, when people ask what's the number one thing, the Ayurveda would recommend for balance. And, there were times when I would say yoga, or I would say meditation, or I would say pranayama. But I think I've come to the place in my life now where I feel pretty strongly that when you are spending conscious present time in nature, um, it's going to do some really good things to your mind, body, spirit quickly. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah. Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, it means so many things, right? That name has like a lot of meanings, from the basic, like nature is sort of essential in our life, to what is our essential nature, which is sort of consciousness and God, and we're sort of beyond the this kind of physical body, but also our essential nature in terms of our doshic makeup. So we're born with a sort of equilibrium of the doshas, whether vata, pitta, kapha, and when we as Sure, exactly. And there are sort of energies and different proportion of energies. So pitta, fire and water, vata, air and space, and kapha, earth and water. Um, so if you're born with a certain proportion of these elements in your physical body, and they help, those energies dictate your circulatory system, your lubrication in your body, your fire, your digestive enzymes. Those energies are what dictate how those flow in the body. And when they're out of balance, that's when disease can manifest. So what we learn and what we talk about is, okay, what was the the baseline when you were born? What was the proportion of these energies in your body? What's your baseline? And there's no better one. It isn't better to be this or better to be that. It's like saying red, blue, white. Like there's no better version. It's just a proportion. And your health, your individual health, depends on you staying in that proportion. When you live in a Western environment and you're traveling all the time and you're meeting to meeting to meeting, well, your air space can get out of balance because you're talking, you're moving air through your body fast, quickly, also communicating. So your vata can get out of balance. Or if you are, if it's summertime and you're eating spicy food and you're creating a lot of internal heat, your pitta, your fire can get out of balance. So what we teach you is what your kind of combination of these doshas, your baseline is, and how can you on an everyday, every week, every cycle check in and recalibrate it. So, for example, I have a lot of pitta, or historically when I began this work, so a lot of internal fire. what can I do to bring that fire down so that I go back to my baseline? Well, I can stop eating spicy foods. I can not do a hot yoga class, for example, which everybody's doing. These like hot, that's really destabilizing and creates a lot of an unbalance for pittas. Or if you're a vata person and you live on the 30th floor of a high rise, well, that can also be destabilizing and not good for your. So how can you recalibrate? And it's something that we can do every day on a daily basis, as simple as changing, shifting the foods, sprinkling different spices in the food in the foods we eat, adding a different herbal, putting oils on our body. Very subtle, simple shifts that really make a huge change. And that's the thing about Ayurveda that can be frustrating for people. It's like a soft, subtle system. It's not, he doesn't come on with like a sledgehammer. It's soft. You slowly create that balance. And then all of a sudden you kind of, you realize, oh, wow, 6 months ago I made this change, or 2 months ago I made this shift, and it's made a huge difference. So that's something that we talk about on the retreat. Mm. No, it's
Well,
exactly
I just
right.
love to add, I think that's incredibly empowering in today's
Hmm.
world where the general emphasis is on taking power away from people by all the ways they give away their attention and their time and whatever. Empowering yourself in health, which is really, you are your best doctor. I mean, I'm not saying doctors are not great. We need doctors because they have a lot more education about how the body works and all those things. But when you're in tune with yourself, when you're connected to yourself, you know when something isn't right. You're listening to your body, you're listening to the different ways it's working and all the other things. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should have all forms of medicine, but if we're not empowered in our own health, it's going to be very difficult to heal because health is a lifestyle. I'm not trying to diminish the fact that people need healing processes, but health in essence is actually the way we live. It's not something that we buy. We buy the treatment, we buy the information, we buy the help when we need it. But health in itself is actually a way of living, um, and empowering ourselves again, or empowering people to take their health into their own hands, and not just their health, but all the other things as well. I think is actually a really beautiful way of dealing with so many of the challenges of the modern world, where we're being so widely spread in so many ways that we're losing our power in every sense. And to bring it back in some way so that we feel more confident, we feel more connected, and we feel more balanced is in itself a very healing kind of reconnection. So I think what you guys are saying makes a lot of sense, and it's really important. Oh. Well, I think it's you guys are running it, and you guys are awesome. And just this conversation in itself even if you don't know about Ayurveda, has, inspiring moments. And you guys are both so beautiful in your way. Like, I can't wait to come on this retreat, even though I'm already going to, you know what I mean? Um, I think that it's the inspirational, in the end, like you say, empowering people, but people need to live it in order to empower themselves. So there's a kind of, well, how do I do this? And a lot of people think, oh, but everything needs to be perfect and I need to be in the right place and I need to. No, you go on retreat to take a break from your regular life in order to have the experience that helps to inspire you to then recreate a way of living when you come home again. I don't think that, it's a bit like when you go to a yoga class. The yoga class is like the retreat. In the yoga class, you learn how to apply these techniques to then take them to the rest of your life. Well, retreat is kind of a similar thing, at least yeah, sure, it's a really nice break, it's a really nice holiday and all the rest of it, but kind of the point of retreat is that you go somewhere, you go out of your day to day, so that you're not in your regular habits and the kids and the husband or the wife or whoever, people pulling you in different directions. You have time for yourself. You get to do these inspiring practices with inspiring people and have delicious food that isn't kind of boring and have amazing experiences that aren't super austere and, oh, well, I'm going to have to spend 5 hours a day meditating. No, not at all. But on these retreats, you get to experience all the different things. And from that, you take, well, listen, this really works for me, this really works for me, and I'm going to apply it to my life. So in a way, it's more of, it's the class, it's the lesson, it's the place where you learn the techniques and the ways in an inspiring environment so that you get inspired, so that you then take that and you take it home and you can apply it to your life. I know that in many people's minds is easier said than done. But to me, that's the point of retreat. And if the people you're doing it with are fun and the food is great and it's fun and it's not austere and it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I have to be a monk and all these things. But no, I can do this in a normal, everyday, today life. Even if you meditate for 5 minutes a day, it's better than not meditating at all. So that's great. Even if you eat a healthier meal for your constitution once a week, it's better than not doing it at all. And even if you just take the tiniest bit of all the little things that you do on these experiences and you apply it to your life, well, your life just got better that little bit. So, um, you know, and like I said in the beginning, if the people running the retreat are super fun and help you to see it from a super kind of normal perspective, like we're not holier than thou and I'm not better than you. We're all in this together. We're all doing this together. We're all walking this path together. And we just want to share, So I think that, especially with you guys, is what makes this retreat so fun and so inspiring and why people keep coming back. You have a lot of repeats because it's really good and it makes a difference. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason at all why you shouldn't come on the retreat unless life totally takes another direction. But
Yeah, seriously. I feel like we can just like mic drop. We can just like end now. There's nothing that needs to be said. But I will say one thing because I do need to end how I started, which is I think one of my favorite parts of the retreat is it's fun. We have fun. There's a lot of joy, a lot of laughter, a lot of dancing, a lot of singing, a lot of sort of non-planned, joy that manifests. And if I was to kind of think about, Jackie, you and I, and kind of why it works, I think it's the our combination of being able to create a container and a space to let people really just let go, connect with nature, not think about the things they need to think about, and just give themselves a few days to receive the magic of what's around them. So I can't wait. I can't wait.
yeah.
I want to go now.
Oh, yeah. Well, and this year they're going to get all the extra treatments as well. So that's Ayurveda in it. So I'll just add this quickly because this is an add-on for this year, which I think, um, you know, the treatments that you're going to receive are really deep Ayurveda. So yeah, they're beautiful. You're going to lie on a table, and that's kind of as much as you need to do. But the treatments themselves, the oils, the herbs, the way that the treatments are done, is actually very deep at a conscious level. at a consciousness level, at a physical level, at an emotional level, at a lymphatic level, at a circulatory level, at a nervous system level. I mean, you name it. The treatments go really, really deep. Um, and there is a part of this retreat which hasn't actually been offered before, which is an experience for people to receive some profound Ayurvedic therapy, so to speak, um, and feel the effect of how, if you really want to go into the Ayurvedic path more and more, then you can use its treatments in essence as a way to really heal, detoxify, cleanse, not just your body, but also your mind, your emotions, and essentially like your entire kind of energy complex.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you, Jackie, for the conversation. Thank you, Kyra. Much love. Much love.
Thank you for coming. I love you
Bye.
too. See you soon.